Sometimes good news doesn't sound good. It'll all be okay, but before it's okay, it'll be hard and painful and will require everything you have. That's good news in the end, good news for one day, but it doesn't sound all that good for today. But that, I think, is the good news that Jesus offers us. Already before Jesus has even spoken a word, his presence seems to bring more like an upsetting of things rather than a healing and solution. Luke tells us of this character Simeon, who had been waiting for the consolation of Israel. And that word consolation is a word that means normally something like comfort after disappointment. We console people when they have lost someone, or we console people when they've lost a game or they have failed a test. Simeon longs for God to console his people, to comfort them, to tell them everything is going to be okay. And at last the first shoots of hope are shooting up through the once frozen earth, an earth that has been frozen by despair and hopelessness. At last new life is breaking forth before his eyes. But this isn't your typical good news story. When Simeon sees this baby, he sings for joy. But the lyrics of his song aren't what you might expect. This song of Simeon's contains ominous words, words that speak of a downfall, of rejection and oppression and pain. This boy is good news, Simeon tells Mary, but an unexpected kind of good news. And I think that's true for us today because we know how the story plays out. We know what these words mean and how they came true in Jesus' life. Because Jesus did indeed cause much division among families and synagogues. And Mary would indeed suffer greatly because of her son. And we know that all those things were integral to the way the gospel had to play out. It had to be this way. Good news is only possible once all the bad stuff has been redeemed. It isn't good news if brokenness and despair are simply ignored, whitewashed, or papered over. Simeon is being honest. He's making it clear that for this Jesus to be saviour of all the hurting and all the broken people of this world, then their hurt and their brokenness must be seen and answered. How would it be good news for you and me if Jesus grew up knowing nothing of heartache and struggle? How would it be good news if he couldn't look at me and my sin and my shame and offer me another way of living? Simeon has told us something profound this morning. This Saviour is serious. He is coming not to validate all the existing power structures of our day, not to play by our rules, but to shine a light on our wounds and then smother our wounds with his healing balm. Having endured a year which has disrupted so many of the things that we care most about, having known anxiety and disappointment, it would be very tempting for us to spend Christmas focusing on the lights and the gifts and the food and the carols. We need a mood booster. I don't think in itself any of those things are wrong, but we do a disservice to those who have suffered to pretend that it's not happening and that it's all dealt with. Because the path to healing from this crazy year we've been through doesn't start with denial or pretending it's all okay when it's not. It starts by speaking honestly about the bad stuff that we have endured, what this year has cost us personally and as communities. Christ comes to heal us for sure, but not before helping us to see how deep our wounds have gone. So maybe before this year is finished, you might want to be brave enough to look closely at your own experiences of the year, to ask God to talk with you about them, to let him heal you of those deep wounds, those struggles, those anxieties, not pretending that it's all fine, but recognizing the pain and offering true healing. A few weeks ago we had readings from Isaiah 9. A people walking in darkness have seen a great light. Light is that which reveals, it is indiscriminate. With light you can see beautiful flowers, cute animals, and alongside them we see their habitats destroyed by human carelessness. Light shows us the good and the bad, and Jesus is that light. By him we see the world as it truly is, and by him we see ourselves as we truly are. And that really is good news, even if it doesn't sound like it at first, because it's like the wound of a friend. If you remember that proverb, the wound of a friend is faithful. It is like the surgeon's knife, that it cuts us and it bleeds us and it makes us hurt, but we are healed more than we're wounded, and somehow we're put back together in a better way after we hear those words that wound us. The light of Christ is sometimes maybe cold, exposing those parts of our lives that we'd rather keep hidden. But it is also a light which is warm, like the sun on a cold winter's day. The ground might be frozen around you, you still need your coat on, but that light shining on your skin makes you think of spring, of new life, even just for a moment. You can't have one without the other. That is good news. As we continue our walk into this new year, we must be people who hold on to that truth in our minds, that the year to come will bring us both cold light and warm light. It will reveal our struggles and our doubts, both as individuals and as a community. And alongside that, it will reveal true love and fellowship and all the blessings that God has for us this year to come. That light of Christ will challenge our thinking. It will upset us from our comfort zones. It will provoke us from our selfish lives. And it will guide us to new places. It will give us strength when we feel like giving up, and will restore our souls with grace. And all of that together is Jesus' light shining in our lives. He is truly the light of the world. Good news for us, even when it doesn't sound all that good. We've heard over these last few days the story of Jesus' birth. Now that he has been born, we have heard today his presentation at the temple by his parents. And already we've seen that this Saviour Jesus is going to be unusual. And the comfort that he will bring his people, the consolation, is no ordinary comfort. He's not going to play by their rules. He'll sometimes say things that they feel like is treason, destructive, irreligious. But truly he is their Saviour, not just of that people, but of the whole world. So this year, as we follow him, let's be ready to accept his unusual way of being our Saviour. Let's be ready for him to unsettle us, to cut away those things that don't belong. Let's be ready to hear words that sound cruel at first, but in fact are intended to set us free from our slavery to fear and shame. Whatever comes for you this year, whatever you have to face, both good and bad, may you know that you will live it bathed in the light of Christ, a light that shines in the darkness. And sometimes that light will feel cold. Other times it will feel warm. but it will always be good news for you, even if it doesn't sound like it at first. Amen.